Hello, 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 hello. Hey, you guys. Hello, 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 hello. Hey, hey, hello. I hope you're having a lovely, 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 lovely day. As you can see, we switched up the setup a little bit. So we're by the foot of my bed. I'm sitting on the floor, and also, oh my god, I'm holding the microphone. I am holding the microphone instead of it being on a microphone stand, which is crazy, you know. And also, I'm doing some soft spoken because last time I did it, you guys loved it. So. I'll try to remember and sparkle in some soft-spoken and then just some normal speaking. Normal whispering. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited for today's video because it's part 2 of a video that you guys loved, and it makes me so happy that you liked it because it means I can be a nerd with you guys, which is just very exciting. And it's the law video. I was expecting it to flop, honestly, and it got a lot of attention, which is amazing, and it got a lot of really lovely comments of people saying that it either bored them to sleep, which was, exactly the intended purpose, or they found it genuinely interesting, which is just like, hell yeah. So we're doing that. And then you can't say that ASMR doesn't teach you things, you know. So I have some fun little cases here for you guys. I think you're gonna enjoy them. They're kind of saucy. 2 of them are. I don't know if saying they're saucy is inappropriate, actually. Anyway, we're gonna read them. We're gonna go through them. I'm gonna try and explain them as best as I can, and I'm gonna hope you guys like it, you know. Yay. So I'm very excited. I hope I don't clip the microphone because I'm holding it. I'm sorry if I do. And yeah. Oh my god, wait, I also brought gum. And well, I'm gonna drink some orange juice first before the gum, because otherwise it will taste horrible, you know, because mint and orange don't mix well. But I'm thirsty and I'm gonna have to talk a lot, so let me drink some orange juice. Wait, give me a second. Okay. Fuck. Was that very loud? I hope it wasn't. Okay, we have drank the orange juice. We now proceed with the first case, which is called, also, do you like my new jumper? It's blue. We proceed with the first case that is called R.V. Dudley and Stephens. When we say R.V., it means, well, the V isn't a versus, but you can, let's just say it's a versus, so it's, because it's easier to understand that way. Let's just say it's R versus Dudley and Stephens, and when a case in English law has an R, it used to mean Regina, which means the Queen. Unfortunately, the Queen did pass, and now we've got Charles. I will keep my personal opinions about him to myself. But yeah, so what that means, it's the crown against the defendant. So the crown is the one that is attacking, which means that it's normally criminal law, because it's basically the state against you, because you, as the defendant, did something wrong. You know, it's not private law, it's more public law. It's not public law per se, but you get what I mean. It's in the public realm of things. So, R.V. Dudley and Stephens is a case from 1882. That's very old. That is very, very, very old. Oh my god. And it is a leading English criminal case. And it established a precedent. So when things establish precedent as in Precedent, I think I said that correctly, not you set something as precedent, it means from that moment onwards, you have to take that as somewhat law. You know? That makes sense. I'm sure you already knew that, but alas. So, it established a precedent throughout the common law world that necessity, the act of being in dire need, is not a defense to a charge of murder. And here comes the important stuff. The case concerned survival cannibalism following a shipwreck, and its purported justification on the basis of a custom of the sea. I know, crazy. So let's start. I'm gonna give you the full in-depth facts. So I'm sorry, I got an itchy face, I don't know why. The yacht was called, I don't know how to pronounce this actually, Mignonette, mayhaps, and it was a big cruiser. Okay, it was like 20 tons, 52 feet, which for people that abide by normal measurement means 16 meters. Cruiser built in 1867. Oh my god, that's old. Anyway, so it was an inshore boat. This is important. It was an inshore boat, not made for long voyages. Actually, I don't know how you pronounce that. Not made for long trips, you know? So anyway, this Australian man called Jack Want purchased it in 1883 for leisure. Okay, I'll get until here. That's fine. The vessel could be transported to Australia by sailing, but its size and the 24,000 kilometers from where it was to Australia voyage daunted attempts that year to find a suitable crew. That makes sense. Nobody wanted to work for that big boat and carry a boat that large on that big of a trip. That makes sense. So they finally managed to do it, to gather a crew, and it left Southampton on 19th of May 1884, bound for Sydney, with a crew of four boys. Well, 4 men. 3 men and 1 boy, actually. So there was a captain, Tom Dudley. Then there was Edwin Stephens. Then Edmund Brooks. And finally, there was a cabin boy, an inexperienced seaman of 17 years of age. Richard Parker was only 17. Okay, get it? Have you got it? Do you remember the 4 men that were on this? Well, the 3 men and 1 boy, 1 teenager that was on this boat. Tom, Edwin, Edmund, and Richard. Tom was the captain. So here's the issue. On the 5th of July, everything was fine. The boat seemed to not be struggling. However, something happened. I'm not a boat person, so I don't actually know what these terms mean, but what I understand is that they were trying to put the boat, like anchor down and put it down, so it wouldn't move, but then a wave struck and washed away something, but it washed away something called a bulwark. I have no clue. Oh, here's I'll tell you what it is. It's tension of a ship's side above the level of the weather deck. Okay. So anyway, that's irrelevant. The point is that because of that accident, that little casualty, as they were trying to put the boat in a stable position so they could all go to sleep, they realized that the yacht was doomed. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. So the captain immediately realized, we're going down. So he ordered the single 13-foot, 4 meters, lifeboat to be lowered. Here's the issue. Furthermore to this catastrophe, the lifeboat was a flimsy construction with boards of only 6 millimeters thick, and it was holed in the haste to get it away. The mignonette, also known as the big ship, sank within 5 minutes of being struck, and the crew abandoned ship for the lifeboat, managing only to salvage vital navigational instruments, along with 2 tins of turnips and no fresh water. Oh no. Dudley managed to improvise a sea anchor to keep the lifeboat headed into the waves and maintain their stability. Over the first night, the crew had to fight off a shark with their oars. This seems made up, but it's true. Isn't that crazy? They were kept more than 1,000 kilometers away from the nearest land, Saint Helena. Where is that? Oh, it's near Africa. Okay. Or another island that I can't even pronounce, so I won't begin to try. Anyway, so Dudley kept the first tin of turnips until the 7th of July, when its 5 pieces were shared among the men to last for 2 days. On or around the 9th of July, Brooks spotted a turtle, which Stephens dragged on board. This yielded about 3 pounds of food, plus the bone, which, alongside the second tin of turnips, lasted until the 17th of July. Let's all bear in mind that the day that it all went down was the 5th of July. They were unable to drink its blood after it became contaminated with seawater. The crew failed to catch any rainwater. Anyway, it gets pretty bleak, so I won't tell you any more details, but they had no water, and the young boy, Parker, and the other guy, irrelevant Stephens, they both became unwell through drinking seawater. So they drew lots. You know what that means? It's like when you just sort, like you pick the longest little straw to choose a victim who would have to die to feed the others. It was first debated on the 16th of July, and they continued to think about it until the 22nd or 23rd of July. However, by then, Parker, the 17-year-old boy, was in a coma. And come nightfall, they decided, upon saying a prayer, to slay the boy. In order to survive, in On the 29th of July, they sighted a sail. They were picked up by a German boat, and they returned the men to Falmouth, Cornwall. They all said what had happened. They were completely honest about it, with Dudley and Stephens believing themselves to be protected by a custom of the sea. A custom of the sea is a custom said to be practiced by the officers and crew of ships and boats in open sea. That could be taken to be law, but is not law. Dudley was confident that the magistrates would dismiss the charges once they did take them to be judged by a court of law. The three men were held by the police until their appearance in September. Oh my god, loud people. The trial opened in Exeter. Dudley and Stephens pleaded not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. They tried to do an insanity defense, saying that they had gone crazy while in the sea. However, it was dismissed. They did not suppress the dreadful conditions on the boat, suggested an ultimate appeal to clemency. There's a lot of issues with the first court and then the second court and blah blah blah, completely irrelevant for you as concerns you. What you have to know is that there was issues, and then they ended up in the Queen's Bench Division, which is considerably higher in the hierarchy of tribunals. So all three men were convicted, and they found that there was no defense of necessity to a charge of murder. You cannot say, oh my god, I needed to kill him, you know? Allegedly. So they said there was no basis to hold up a defense of necessity in murder on the basis of legal precedent, nor on the basis of ethics and morality. And here's a good quote from the actual judgment. Bear in mind, this is from 18 something. I forgot the actual date, but you know, they said to preserve. Oh well, go back to speaking way. To preserve one's life is generally speaking a duty, but it may be the plainest and highest duty to sacrifice it. War is full of instances in which it is a man's duty not to live, but to die. The duty in case of the shipwreck of a captain to his crew, of the crew to the passengers, of the soldiers to men and women and children, as in the noble case of the Birkenhead. These duties impose on men the moral necessity, not of the preservation, but of the sacrifice of their lives for others, from which in no country, least of all it is to be hoped in England, will men ever shrink, as indeed they have not shrunk. It would be a very easy and cheap display of commonplace learning to quote from the Greek and Latin authors, from Horace, from Juvenal, from Cicero, from Euripides, passage after passage, in which the duty of dying for others has been laid down in glowing and empathetic language, resulting from the principles of heathen ethics. It is enough in a Christian country to remind ourselves of the great example, whom we profess to follow. They were so poetic with it. Again, bear in mind this is the 1800s, so I guess it is warranted. And also, trying to, defending a genuine law appeal, basing yourself on religion is bonkers. But alas, it is ethics and morality, which I guess makes it better. But anyway, I'm not saying I disagree, by the way. I'm just saying it's a crazy argument for, a whole decision to hinge on that. But anyway, furthermore, the judges questioned who was qualified to make the decision of who should live and who should die, were the principle to be allowed. We already know the principle was not allowed. But they further observed that such a principle might be the legal cloak for unbridled passion and atrocious crime. Damn. They were sensible, nonetheless, of the men's awful predicament. And here's another quote from the judgment of their little poetic ways. They said, "It must not be supposed that in refusing to admit temptation to be an excuse for crime, it is forgotten how terrible the temptation was, how awful the suffering, how hard in such trials to keep the judgment straight and the conduct pure. We are often compelled to set up standards we cannot reach ourselves, and to lay down rules which we could not ourselves satisfy." So here they showed some clemency, and they said, I do get that at the sea, in a shipwreck, things are a bit crazy. But even despite saying this, they continued with, "But a man has no right to declare temptation to be an excuse, though he might himself have yielded to it, nor allow compassion for the criminal to change or weaken in any manner the legal definition of the crime." So, I fear they were sentenced to statutory death with a alleged recommendation for mercy. I mean, it's just an awful case, honestly. It's very interesting, and it clearly shaped modern law, modern history. So yeah, in case you were wondering, you cannot argue that you are in a state of necessity to justify murder. So if any of you guys were planning on doing that, I'm so sorry, it's not gonna work. Yeah, I know. So yeah, I had like 5 cases planned that, but reading one case took 24 minutes, so I think we're gonna leave it here. Maybe I'll record another one as a separate video, but I don't know, man. Anyway, I hope you liked it. The secret word is